It all began with a gut feeling. It always does, doesn't it? Some subtle shift in tone, a softness in her voice that wasn't there before. The way she'd say, "I'll be out for lunch with a friend," with a gentleness that only stood out because I knew the sharp edges of her words so well. Laura and I have been married for 8 years. 8 years of shared morning coffees, whispered dreams, and a quiet understanding that comes from knowing someone inside and out. I thought we were solid. Sure, we had our disagreements, but who doesn't? I chalked it up to the natural wear and tear of life. But then came the late-night text. I saw it by accident, glowing on her phone as it rested on the couch beside me. "Can't stop thinking about today." The message was from a number I didn't recognize. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off with a nervous laugh. "It's nothing, just a group chat. You know how girls can be." I nodded, but I didn't press further. That night, lying in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, I knew something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. Weeks passed and her lunch dates became more frequent. Her excuses grew vaguer. That's when I decided to act. I'm not proud of it, but I went through her phone one afternoon when she left it unattended. The texts I found weren't just suggestive. They were explicit. Her friend was someone named Eric, and judging by their exchanges, their lunches were far more than casual meetups. My stomach ached as I read their messages, a mix of nausea and anger washing over me, followed by a crushing wave of humiliation. My wife, my Laura, was having an affair, and it wasn't just a fling. Their messages dripped with emotional intimacy, the kind of connection I thought was still ours. For a week, I carried the knowledge in silence, trying to figure out what to do. Should I confront her, pack my bags, and leave? Beg her to explain? In the end, I did none of those things. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I plotted carefully, methodically. I planned. It started with research. A few social media rabbit holes later, I discovered Eric was a colleague of hers, a sales rep she collaborated with on a project. He was married, too. I found his wife, Christine, on Facebook, a petite brunette with kind eyes and 2 young kids. My heart broke for her, but my sympathy didn't stop me from moving forward. The plan came together quickly. First, I hired a private investigator, a grizzled man named Frank with a face like a bulldog and a no-nonsense attitude. Frank's photos confirmed everything. Laura and Eric leaving a hotel together, their arms brushing, their faces lit up with laughter. He even captured a shot of them kissing in her car. Proof. Hard, undeniable proof. Next, I reached out to Christine. My message was simple. "Hi, Christine. This is going to be hard to hear, but I believe your husband, Eric, is having an affair with my wife, Laura. I've attached photos. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this." Her response came an hour later. "Thank you for telling me." The ball was rolling now, and I was no longer in control of where it would stop. But I had one last card to play. I wanted Laura to see the damage her betrayal had caused, to feel the weight of her choices. So I invited her to lunch. "Let's have a date," I said, forcing a smile. "Just the 2 of us. We haven't done that in a while." She seemed relieved, almost eager. Maybe she thought my sudden attentiveness meant I suspected nothing. Little did she know it was the calm before the storm. The day of the lunch arrived. I set the table meticulously. A crisp white tablecloth, our finest silverware, and 2 glasses of wine. On the surface, it looked like an attempt to rekindle romance. In reality, it was a stage, and the centerpiece wasn't flowers, but a manila envelope filled with every damning piece of evidence Frank had gathered. Laura walked in smiling, her cheeks flushed from what I assumed was another lunch date. She stopped cold when she saw the table, her eyes darting from the envelope to me. "What's this?" she asked, her voice shaky. I didn't answer. I just gestured for her to sit. Reluctantly, she did, her smile fading as she opened the envelope, her jaw tightening as she sifted through the photos and printouts of text messages. "I can explain," she stammered, but her voice lacked conviction. "Explain what?" I leaned back in my chair, my voice calm but razor-sharp. "That you've been lying to me for months? That you've been sneaking around with a married man? That you've been treating our marriage like it's disposable. Tears welled in her eyes. It's not like that, she whispered. Then what is it like, Laura? I demanded, my voice rising. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been having your cake and eating it too. She broke down, sobbing, mumbling apologies that meant nothing. I let her cry, let her wallow in the mess she created. When she finally looked up at me, her face streaked with tears, I dropped the next bombshell. I've spoken to Christine, I said. Her eyes widened in horror. You what? She knows everything, I continued. Just like I do. You destroyed not one but two families, Laura. Congratulations. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. Laura's head whipped around, her expression a mix of fear and confusion. I stood and opened it to reveal Christine. She stepped inside, her face calm but her eyes blazing with anger. And behind her stood Eric. Laura's face went pale. What is this? She whispered. This, I said, is closure. The confrontation that followed was ugly. Christine unleashed years of pent-up frustration on Eric, who stood there stammering like a fool. Laura tried to intervene, but Christine turned on her with the ferocity of a lioness. Don't you dare try to justify this, she snarled. You're selfish, deceitful. The words she used weren't fit for polite company. Eric finally tried to defend himself, spouting some nonsense about feeling unappreciated at home. Unappreciated. I laughed bitterly. You've got two beautiful kids and a wife who'd move heaven and earth for you. And this is how you repay her? By the end of it, everyone's emotions were frayed. Laura and Eric looked like broken shells of the people they were when they walked in. Christine and I exchanged a look, a silent acknowledgement that we had both emerged stronger. The fallout was swift. Laura packed her bags and moved out that evening. I filed for divorce the next day. Christine did the same. Eric lost his job when Christine sent their employer copies of the evidence. Laura's reputation took a nosedive as word of the affair spread among our friends and family. They had no one to blame but themselves. As for me, I won't pretend it was easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, mornings when getting out of bed felt impossible. But with time, the anger faded, replaced by a quiet determination to rebuild my life. I started therapy, took up running, and reconnected with old friends. A year later, I'm happier than I've been in years. I've learned to value myself, to demand honesty and respect from the people in my life. Laura and Eric, last I heard, their relationship didn't survive the weight of the guilt. Revenge may not be the healthiest of motivations, but sometimes it's the catalyst we need to reclaim our power. And reclaim it I did.